Hello everyone. Welcome back and thanks for joining us today. We have a brand new story to share with you, so let's get started. My name is Isabel Green. I'm 42 years old, and for the past 5 years, my life has followed the quiet, predictable rhythm of solitude. I live in a small house by the lake, where the air smells like pine and earth after every rainfall, and silence is as constant as the ticking of the clock in my hallway. I used to dread the quiet, especially after my divorce, but now I find strange comfort in it. My days are filled with sketchbooks, mugs of lukewarm tea, and the occasional background hum of old jazz records. But nothing in my carefully controlled world prepared me for the knock on my door that rainy Thursday evening. It was around 7 p.m., and the sky had darkened faster than usual. Clouds swollen and angry. I had just finished washing my brushes when I heard it, the knock. 3 sharp taps, firm but hesitant. I froze, my breath catching in my throat. I wasn't expecting anyone. Daniel, my boyfriend of nearly a year, was out of town on a work retreat, and I hadn't made plans with anyone else. The second knock came, and a chill crept up my spine. I dried my hands on a dish towel and cautiously made my way to the door. When I looked through the peephole, my heart stopped. It couldn't be, but it was. Damien, older, wearier, soaked from the rain, but unmistakably Damien. My first love, the boy I gave my heart to at 17, who vanished without warning just weeks before prom. The man I hadn't seen in almost 20 years. I opened the door slowly, my voice catching. Damien? He offered a tight, uncertain smile, rain dripping from his hair onto the porch. Hi, Isabel. I know this is unexpected. I'm sorry, I was passing through, and I didn't know who else I could turn to. I stepped aside instinctively, not because it made sense, but because something in his voice, the quiet desperation, pulled me into the moment before logic could catch up. He stepped inside, shivering slightly, and I shut the door behind him, feeling the weight of 2 decades slam into the silence between us. For a moment, we just stood there in my entryway, the sound of the rain pounding against the windows. He looked around like the place was familiar, though it wasn't. I didn't come here to stir anything up, he said, but I couldn't leave town without seeing you. Not this time. Not this time? The words echoed in my mind as I stared at him, still stunned. Part of me wanted to demand answers. The other part? It wanted to step closer, to touch his face, to ask him why he disappeared, to ask him if he ever thought of me. And in that moment, I knew, the past I had buried so carefully was about to rise again, and nothing would be the same. I stared at Damien, every nerve in my body taut, like the air itself had thickened. My mind scrambled for something to say, but it was my heart that beat loudest, thundering in my ears like the storm outside. It had been 24 years since he disappeared. 24 years since I waited by a phone that never rang, cried into letters I never sent, and swore to myself I'd never let someone vanish from my life without an explanation again. And yet, here he was, real, present, dripping water on my hardwood floor like he belonged here. I motioned him toward the living room. Wordlessly, my voice wouldn't come. Not yet. He followed, his steps tentative, eyes scanning the room like it held some clue about the life I'd lived without him. I sat down on the couch, tucking my legs under me, and he took the chair across from me, leaving space between us but not nearly enough to dull the electricity humming in the air. I know this must be surreal, he said finally, his voice softer now, but I had to see you. I've been carrying this for too long. What happened? The words tumbled out of me, more brittle than I intended. You disappeared, Damien. I thought you were dead. Or worse, I thought you just stopped loving me. He flinched like I'd slapped him. No, God, no, I never stopped loving you. Those words knocked the breath out of me. I hadn't realized how much of me still needed to hear them. How deeply I'd tucked away that pain. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, his hands clasped. My father, he got arrested. It was bad, Isabel, really bad. FBI, federal charges, asset seizures. We lost everything, and we had to disappear. My stomach twisted. Witness protection? He nodded. They moved us overnight. I couldn't call you. I couldn't even write. They said any contact could put both of us at risk. But, all this time? My voice cracked. You never tried? You never came back? I did, he said, eyes glistening. 2 years ago, I drove through this town twice. But I didn't think you'd want to see me. I figured you had a life. A husband, kids. I did, I said, almost in a whisper. A marriage that didn't survive. No kids. And you? He shook his head. I never settled. Not really. No one ever felt like home. Something in me cracked open at that. A fissure in the wall I'd built to protect myself. I wanted to believe him. But I didn't know if I could. Why now, Damien? I asked. Why come back tonight? He looked me straight in the eye. Because I saw your name in the alumni newsletter last month. And for the first time in years, I knew where to find you. I just needed to see if there was still something left between us. Anything. The storm outside roared louder. But it was nothing compared to the one now quietly unraveling inside me. I didn't speak for a long time. The rain pelted the windows in steady sheets. A kind of rhythm that matched the chaos unraveling inside me. Damien sat across from me, eyes never leaving mine, and for a moment, I saw the boy he used to be, reckless, poetic, full of fire, but time had carved lines into his face, softened his jaw, and added shadows under his eyes that spoke of years he hadn't lived peacefully. Still, something in him felt heartbreakingly familiar. I don't know what you want from me, I said, finally breaking the silence. My voice was low, tight. Do you expect me to just open my arms after 2 decades and pretend none of it happened? No, he said quietly. I don't expect anything. I just wanted a chance to explain. To be in the same room with you and not feel like I'm suffocating on all the things I never got to say. I blinked against the tears stinging my eyes. I had spent years learning how to bury pain so deep that I forgot how much it still hurt. But here he was, dragging it all into the light with nothing but a voice and a look that still knew how to undo me. I waited for you, I whispered. You said you'd come back. You said you'd love me forever. And then you vanished. Do you have any idea what that did to me? His jaw clenched. I do. I've lived with that guilt every single day. And if I could change it, I would. But I couldn't. I wasn't just protecting myself, I was protecting you. And now? I asked. What's changed? He looked down for a moment. Then back at me. Now I'm free. The case is closed. My father died in prison. I'm not looking over my shoulder anymore. And I realized if I didn't find you now, I'd lose the chance forever. My chest tightened. I didn't know if I was angry, heartbroken, or just overwhelmed. Maybe all three. I'm not the same girl you left. Damien, I said. She was full of dreams. Of faith in forever. That girl died the day you disappeared. He stood up then, slowly, like he wasn't sure if he had the right. Then let me meet the woman who took her place. That stopped me. It wasn't a plea. It was an offering. A request without strings. I stood too, almost on instinct. And for a moment we stood in the center of my living room. Surrounded by the echoes of a life we almost had. The air was thick with tension. But there was something else too, something trembling and unspoken. I don't know what this is, I said, voice shaking, but I'm scared of what it might stir up. He nodded. Me too, but I'm here, and I'm not running anymore. And in that fragile moment, beneath the ache of everything we had lost, I realized something devastating and undeniable. A part of me had been waiting for him all along. The days that followed were a blur of unspoken thoughts and hesitant exchanges. Damien didn't leave town like I expected he might. Instead, he stayed, quietly, respectfully, like he knew pushing too hard would break whatever fragile thread now tethered us. I found myself watching the window more often, noticing the way he walked his dog down the street or how he sometimes sat alone at the cafe across from my bookstore. Never once coming in, but I could feel him, like a memory that never fully faded, like a song I couldn't forget the lyrics to. Then, on Thursday evening, just after I'd locked up the shop, I found a note slipped through the door. No envelope, no name, just my name in handwriting I didn't recognize. Isabel, we need to talk, before it's too late. My stomach flipped. For a moment, I thought it was from Damien. But the jagged scrawl didn't match his steady, poetic penmanship. I stepped outside, heart pounding, and scanned the street, empty, save for a flickering street lamp and the distant hum of tires on wet asphalt. I clutched the note all the way home, reading and rereading it like the words might rearrange themselves into something less ominous. But deep down, I knew, the past Damien tried to protect me from, it hadn't let go of him. And now, it was knocking on my door. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, clutching the sheet to my chest, trying to ignore the gnawing feeling that something was about to unravel. At midnight, my phone buzzed. A message. Unknown number. You shouldn't trust him. He's not telling you everything. My blood ran cold. I sat up, heart thundering, and stared at the screen. Who was this? And how did they know about Damien and me? By morning, the message had disappeared, deleted, as if it had never existed. But the fear remained, a creeping chill that curled around my spine like ivy. I confronted Damien later that day. I didn't wait for pleasantries. I marched up to him outside the cafe, holding the note in my trembling hand. You said the case was closed. I said, voice low and sharp. You said your father was dead. Then why am I getting warnings in the middle of the night? Damien paled. He looked at the note, then back at me, and something in his eyes shifted, a flash of panic. Quickly masked. I didn't know, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. But I'm not surprised. There were people, men my father was connected to. Dangerous ones. I think they know I'm back. And now they know I'm here too. I said, my breath catching. He reached for me, gently, like I might shatter. I'll protect you, I swear. I never meant to drag you back into this. But it was too late. We were already in it. Together. That night, I couldn't lock the doors fast enough. Every creak in the floorboards, every gust of wind against the windows felt like a warning. I double-checked the back door, drew the curtains, turned off the lights. My world, the one I had so carefully rebuilt with routine and quiet, was unraveling one breath at a time. I sat on the couch with my phone clutched in one hand. Damien's number open, thumb hovering. I didn't know if I wanted to call him or erase him. My heart couldn't decide which it needed more, safety or distance. Then came the knock. Not the doorbell. A knock. Soft. Deliberate. It was almost 1 a.m. I froze. My breath stuck in my throat. I tiptoed toward the window, my pulse roaring in my ears. The porch light flickered. A figure stood in shadow. Not Damien. Too tall. Too still. I didn't open the door. I couldn't. But a voice broke the silence. I just want to talk, the man said, his voice muffled by the rain that had started again. I knew your father, he added after a beat. Or at least, I thought I did. My knees buckled. He wasn't talking to me. He was talking to Damien. I backed away from the door, heart thudding, and called him. It rang once, then twice. Then he answered, breathless. Isabel? There's someone at my door. I whispered. He said he knew your father. Dead silence. I'm coming, Damien said immediately. Don't open the door. Do not let him in. The line went dead. The man outside waited another minute, then slipped a small envelope beneath the door and walked away without another word. I waited until his footsteps faded, then crawled toward the envelope like it might bite. Inside was a single photograph. It was old, faded, a man, Damien's father. Younger, standing beside another man I didn't recognize. Their arms slung casually around each other. But the smiles were wrong. Too stiff, too sharp. On the back, in red ink, someone had scrawled, he lied to both of you. When Damien arrived, soaked and out of breath, I was still sitting on the floor, staring at the photo like it might speak. He didn't ask what it was. He just dropped to his knees beside me and wrapped his arms around me. I'm sorry, he said into my hair, his voice breaking. There's so much I never told you. So much I thought I could protect you from. I pulled back and looked at him, really looked at him. Then start telling me now, I whispered, because I think we're both in more danger than we ever realized. He nodded slowly, his eyes filled with something I hadn't seen in him before, not just fear, but guilt, and maybe even love. Damien sat on the edge of my sofa like it might collapse beneath the weight of what he was about to say. The photo lay between us on the coffee table, still wet at the edges from the rain. He hadn't stopped staring at it since he arrived. I watched his jaw tighten, his fists clench, his eyes flicker with that storm I was beginning to recognize as pain he hadn't learned how to name yet. His name was Marcus, he said finally, the man next to my father in that photo. He was more than a friend. He was. Damien hesitated, then gave a humorless laugh. He was my father's shadow. His business partner. His mistake. I leaned forward slowly. What kind of mistake? Damien exhaled, the sound heavy and worn. When I was 10, I found out what they were doing. I wasn't supposed to, but I was curious. I thought I was smart. I overheard things, whispers, names, money that moved too fast. But I didn't understand, not until later. My blood ran cold. Damien, what did they do? His gaze locked on mine, full of a sadness I couldn't quite bear. They ran a trafficking network. Not drugs, not guns, people. I felt like the floor had dropped beneath me. He looked away, eyes glossy now. My father kept it hidden, even from my mother. Marcus was the one who pulled him in, who taught him how to cover his tracks. And when the FBI started circling, my father panicked, tried to disappear. But Marcus, he didn't want out. He blamed my father. He said if we ever resurfaced, he'd finish what the feds started. I sat back, heart racing. And now, he's back? Damien nodded slowly. He must have found something. Someone. That knock at your door? That wasn't a threat, Isabel. That was a warning. He wants me to know he still holds the leash. The photo glared up at us. A silent reminder of everything he'd just said. My hands were trembling, not just from fear, from the heartbreak of realizing Damien, quiet, gentle Damien, had been carrying this horror his whole life. I should have told you sooner, he said, barely above a whisper, but I didn't want to pull you into it. I thought if I kept my distance. Don't. I cut in gently. Don't apologize for trying to protect me. We sat in silence for a long moment. The clock ticked, and outside, the wind picked up again, as if even the night knew what was coming. Do you think he'll come back? I asked finally. Damien didn't answer right away. Then, with a voice laced with certainty and dread, he whispered, he never left. And just like that, I knew, whatever came next wouldn't be about the past anymore. It would be about survival. That night, neither of us slept. Damien remained on the couch, staring into the dark, while I lay in bed, the weight of his story pressing down on my chest like a boulder I couldn't shift. Every creak of the house, every gust of wind against the windows set my nerves on edge. I kept picturing that man, Marcus, standing just beyond the reach of light. Watching, waiting. The silence between Damien and me wasn't uncomfortable, it was thick. Necessary. We were both unraveling in our own ways. By morning, the storm outside had calmed. But inside me, it was only getting stronger. I found Damien in the kitchen, already dressed, coffee untouched in his hand. His eyes were bloodshot, his face drawn. He's watching you now, Damien said without preamble. Not just me. I stiffened. What do you mean? He set the cup down and slid his phone across the table. A single photo filled the screen. It was me. From the day before, walking home from the market. Completely unaware. The angle was distant, taken from behind a tinted car window. I felt the blood drain from my face. That was sent to me around 3 a.m. No message. Just that. I pressed my hand over my mouth. The air suddenly too thick to breathe. He's here, in town? Damien nodded. Or he has someone watching. Either way, it's a message. What does he want? Damien's eyes met mine, hollow and haunted. He wants me to come back into his world. Or suffer the consequences. I sat down, the weight of it all crashing over me. We have to tell someone. The police. No, Damien said quickly. He has people. He's not just one man anymore. He's a network. I learned that the hard way. I looked at him, really looked, and saw a man exhausted by years of running. Not just from Marcus, but from the guilt of surviving, of knowing too much, of burying parts of himself so deeply that even he had forgotten how to feel safe. I can't let you protect me by shutting me out, I said quietly. You're not alone anymore, Damien. He looked stunned for a second, as if the thought had never occurred to him. I don't want to drag you into this. You already have, I whispered, but I'm not leaving. A flicker of something passed through his eyes, hope. Maybe, or fear, maybe both. Before he could respond, a sharp knock shattered the stillness. We froze. The air became electric. My heart pounded against my ribs like a warning bell. Damien stood slowly, motioning for me to stay back, and walked toward the door. Another knock, firmer this time. He peeked through the curtain, then let out a tense breath. It's a woman, he said. She's alone. He opened the door slowly. And there, standing on my porch, was a woman I had never seen before, drenched from the drizzle. Eyes wild, lips trembling. Are you Damien Carter? She asked, her voice barely holding together. Because I think we're both being hunted. And just like that, the mystery widened, sharper, darker, and far more dangerous than I had imagined. The woman's name was Isabel, and her presence felt like a storm walking through the doorway. Soaked, shaking, and clinging to a leather satchel like it held her last shred of safety. She stepped inside with hesitant urgency. Damien didn't speak at first. He stared at her as if she were a ghost pulled from the ruins of a life he thought he'd buried. His hands trembled slightly, something I'd never seen before. I offered Isabel a towel, and she took it, her eyes darting around the room as if even the furniture might betray her. How do you know my name? Damien finally asked, his voice taut. Isabel looked at him, her expression fractured with both fear and recognition. Because I used to work for Marcus. And because he never stopped looking for you. Silence dropped over the room like a lead curtain. I stood frozen, my mind racing. Damien's face paled, but he didn't flinch. I ran 2 years ago, she said, her voice soft but edged with steel. When I realized what he really was, what he was doing, and who he hurt. You were the name I kept hearing, his obsession. I thought it was just about revenge, until I found your file. She opened her satchel with trembling hands and pulled out a folder, aged, creased, stained. My name was scrawled across the corner. My name, not Damien's. I felt the room shift. He's not just watching you, Damien, Isabel said, her gaze flicking to me. He's watching her. I took the file with shaking hands. Inside were photos of me, my house, my routine, notes in shorthand, a copy of an email I had sent to my sister months ago. I felt stripped bare, violated, but what chilled me to the core was a page tucked in the back. A list. 5 names. 4 were crossed out. Mine was the only one left untouched. I don't understand, I whispered. Why me? I've never met him. Damien stepped beside me, his voice dark. Because hurting you hurts me. This isn't about you personally. It's about leverage, manipulation, control. That's how Marcus works. Isabel nodded. He's escalating. You both need to disappear before he gets closer. I can help, but we don't have long. My knees nearly buckled. This was too much. Just days ago, I was living in quiet simplicity, baking bread and folding laundry. And now, someone was hunting me because of a man I barely knew, a man who had bled his past into mine, staining it with secrets I didn't ask for but now couldn't escape. Damien stepped forward, fierce and shaken. We're not running, not yet. First, we stop pretending this is survivable in isolation. He turned to me, his voice softer. I dragged you into this. But I swear, I'll get you out. And for the first time, I realized the truth. I wasn't just collateral in Damien's story. I had become part of the ending, or maybe the only chance at rewriting it. Sometimes the people we let in come with more than just charm and conversation, they carry ghosts. Damien's story wasn't just his anymore, it had become mine too. And while I never asked for the danger, the fear, or the tangled history, I couldn't deny the deeper truth. Connection isn't always clean. It's complicated, often born from pain, from survival, from needing to be seen. But in this chaos, I found something real, not just fear, but choice. And maybe, strength. Because sometimes the lesson isn't how to escape the past, it's how to confront it without losing yourself. If this part of the journey moved you, if you felt the weight of secrets, the sting of betrayal, and the quiet courage it takes to keep going, please like this video. Share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to Heartfelt Tales Reddit. Your support helps stories like this reach those who need them most. And trust me, the next chapter is just beginning. Because some stories don't end when the truth is revealed, they begin when someone decides to fight for what's still worth saving. Stay with us. You won't want to miss what happens next.